Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as House of the Dragons and Pornhub. I am one of your hosts, the Alpha Donut guy, Brenton Beswick, alongside my co-host, Gregory T. Filson, and the T stands for the Drip King. Greg, how are you this eve?
I am. I think this is what a month this week has been for me.
Yeah,
So,
I feel that actually.
what a month this week has been. What a year the last 10 days have been for me. This is the thing I'll say, and I learned a lesson, Brenton,
Yeah,
is I had a good day of school about 2 weeks ago.
you had a good day of
2 weeks ago,
school
and
2
I
weeks ago.
said it out loud. I said it
Yeah.
out loud. I said, that was a good day. I told people this was a good day. Everything went really smoothly. And ever since then, right down the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
And I don't like to drop the F-bomb that often on here, but there's no other way to say it. And so I'll never say I have a good day at job again. I could somehow miraculously become a Super Bowl winning quarterback because I still have 7 years left, at least, probably to do it. And I would be like subpar day. That's how I'll describe it. I'm not going to get into details. That's how I'll describe it. How are you, Brenton?
Well, speaking of toilets, I've come to a conclusion that I feel as though um I feel as though bidets should be standard in all public toilets because here's my thing, right? If you're desperate enough to have to shit at like a Sam's Club, we know what the situation is, right? Like that
Oh,
Chipotle just went
god damn.
wrong, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be clean. Like nobody's going to a bathroom at Target with a Snow White. It's just not happening. You know what I mean? It's a if you're walking to the back corner of your local Walmart like John Wayne, we know it's about to be a crisis in that bathroom. And I think that just the only way to mitigate, like think about like anytime you've even just gone in to wash your hands in a bathroom, like a public restroom, like somebody's in there fighting for their life. You know what I mean? And you can hear it, right?
I real quick, and I'll let you go back. One time I went, and this is going to sound like a Jerry Seinfeld thing. I one time went into a bathroom, and I can count on my hand how many times I've used the public restroom to number two.
Right.
And I also only need one finger for that. I've only ever done it once in my entire life.
Oh, okay. I was
To
concerned about
not to
what
be
you were
weird.
doing
No,
with
I've
that
only
finger.
ever actually used a public restroom in number two, and it was things had gone awry,
Yeah,
very
exactly.
awry,
That's what I
very awry.
mean.
And yeah, so the thing I will say though is I went to use a restroom to number one, and
Piss. We're adults.
yeah, to piss, and there was a little soakage on the floor. So luckily dinner had been over. We had finished our dinner with some friends, and so I went home, immediately took Clorox wipes, wiped down my dishwasher, my laundry machine,
Your dishwasher.
wiped it down with Clorox wipes, then wiped my hands and my shoes. These are canvas Nikes, so that I wouldn't
Drip
touch
King.
any of it. Yeah, to not touch anything, and then promptly put those in the washing machine by themselves with hot water and detergent to clean them. So, yes, that probably sounds to some people as like, wow, Greg is a germaphobe. It was terrifying. It literally, if that happened mid dinner, if that had happened to me mid dinner, I'm done. I just like, you know what? Here's my credit card. Everyone can get whatever they want. I need to leave because this is a situation that I need to handle. So public
Yeah.
restrooms for me are a thing where I hate them all. And
Yeah.
as someone who had to clean a bathroom and working in retail, I understand that people have their issues. I 100%. But also, like, don't shit on the walls.
And this is where the bidet comes in.
Exactly.
Is let's just try to keep it clean. And, a little bit of extra sprayage is going to help out the toilet. It's going to help out the undercarriage, obviously. And it's going to help you go on and live your life afterwards, because most of the time I would say that if you have to drop a deuce in a public restroom, it's probably like the type of deuce that you need to smoke a cigarette after. And
if you are just dropping a regular deuce in a restroom, you're way too comfortable with public restrooms.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a crisis. Just like,
you know what? I just feel like dropping a deuce.
No, nobody does that.
Unless, like, you're just out
of
your mind.
There's a reason why like outhouses look the way they do in the poop portion. It's because everyone that went in there was fighting for their life. 100%.
I think that also, I will add, a public bidet should have no less than 7% of Clorox mixed in. You know what? If it stings a little, if it stings a little,
it's for the betterment.
It is. It's for everyone else.
Yeah, and it's for you.
It is for you.
Chipotle went wrong.
Yeah.
It's just it didn't agree with you. Maybe,
and if you are drinking the Clorox, it clears out COVID. So
I've heard.
Did
you see? Speaking of crazy people, did you see that somebody got arrested in Pennsylvania for? I think I sent you the link, right?
You did send me this link. I saw it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Guy went into Dairy Queen with a gun with intentions on restoring the former president to his position of power. And it was in Pennsylvania, and it was in a Dairy Queen. And even though I don't know where it was at in Pennsylvania, that shit hit home for me. Because I like Dairy Queens. Yeah. You thought it was me?
I thought it was you, because I thought someone tried to tip it over to show that it wouldn't spill out. And you said, throw some goddamn Reese's on there.
Right.
And then you're just like, you know what? Back when Trump was president, we just threw Reese's in there because we were trying to make America great again. And then you just went off. And you know what, Brenton? When I found out it wasn't you, so supposedly, allegedly it wasn't you.
I don't own a clown wig, so
that's what someone who does own a clown wig would say, that they don't own one. I don't know.
Right.
But when I assumed that it wasn't you, I once again thought, you know what? Probably is still Brent. So I think I'm talking to the man at large.
He's not at large. He's already been. He's been.
I know.
Apprehended.
He's been apprehended. Which good for you. Good for you. Because I thought it was you. Like, literally, the time I read that story, it was late when I read it. So I was like, I'm not going to send it to you because I don't know. Like, I don't know what people's sleep timers are. If some people get their Instagram thing
3 hours ahead of you. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I didn't, and then you said it to me this morning, and I was like, I love this story. The thing I will say though is, you said you go through like a Dairy Queen drive-through.
I go through the drive-through every time.
You go through a drive-through.
I don't get out of anywhere.
I don't know if I've ever done Dairy Queen drive-through.
Right.
I honestly don't. I was trying to think if I ever had, and maybe once or twice, but like, there's something to me about going to a dairy aisle, which are very non-existent out here on the West Coast.
A Dairy Queen?
A dairy aisle, like where you have the outside, the dairy aisle where you like go out. Excuse me, you go outside and you order, and then you kind of like sit in your car. And you wait for the 16-year-old girl to wave you over, and and like, hey, your burgers are done, and
that's not a thing.
That is the thing. Shirley's in Shakelyville. You ever been to Shirley's in Shakelyville, Brenton? The Dairy Queen in the Dairy Queen Mercer, you walk inside.
Yeah.
I'm talking like the outside.
JC.
Service. Maybe they don't have
the JC one is outside.
That's outside.
You don't. I go through the drive-through there. If I go there.
half the time, well, once I drove and Ty and I would, Ty was in walking distance. So we just walked
That's nonsense.
there. Okay.
Why would you?
And then when we go to the ice cream place in Meadville, I want to make sure I have the right name.
Is it hard ice cream?
It is.
It's
it is
really
delicious.
It's really good if it's the place.
It's one of the best.
About.
It's one of the best. Good Lord. I hope it's not closed anymore.
No,
because there's Frank's hot dogs. Is it Casey's?
Yes,
it is Casey's.
It's excellent.
So Phil, friend of the program, hopefully we'll have him on sometime.
Absolutely not.
Known anti-chili peppers guy. So Phil and I used to play putt-putt a lot.
Up
and
there,
then we would go there.
Mm-hmm.
Great putt-putt course.
Yeah.
I
played there with
courses.
You once.
Yeah, you have 2 18-hole courses there. That's what makes it great. And then we would go there for ice cream, and then or hot dogs at Frank's, and then Casey's for ice cream. The thing is always had the hottest chicks in Meadville working there. And so
I don't know that the bar set super high.
Well, here's the thing. Western Pennsylvania, you take what you can get.
Sure.
No offense to anybody that we grew up with. I'm just saying, hottest girls there. I'm not going to compare anybody. We're just saying at the time, we were 16, 17-year-old, and you're driving. It's like, these chicks are cute. I will say there were some. I will go back. If I go back in time and think about what they were pretty cute. I would say they're pretty cute. Meadville had a good, cute girl population, but ice cream parlors, ice cream dairy aisles, all those things, the outside thing. I hope that's not a love lost thing. I always appreciated it. I like that outdoor, and then the girl
well, that's more like
the wave.
I think it's more like Brewster's. Is
you never been to Shirley's in Shakelyville?
No, I can't say I have.
Really good burgers. Honestly,
I was
really good burgers.
while
My
we're
mom,
on the topic
right now, she'll be like, yes, great burgers.
While we're on the topic of food, I was listening to a podcast that I listened to, and they were saying how certain like areas do things better than others, right? I mean, you're going to go to like Memphis or Kansas City for barbecue. You know what I mean?
Or Texas.
Yeah, or Texas. But New York came up for having the best pizza. And then naturally someone had written into the show about Chicago style pizza. And then the one host who's actually from Butler chimed in about like the Western Pennsylvanian delicacy being the Primanti Brothers sandwich. And I was like, it's true, but that's super disappointing. Because I fucking hate those sandwiches, man.
You hate it, and I'm a fan of those. The thing, though, I will say my favorite thing from Western PA that I can't get here is pierogies. I can get pierogies frozen.
Yeah.
But I love going to like a Polish festival and having real deal pierogies. And when I explain that to people, and then they're like, well, I've had Mrs. T's, it's like, you haven't had pierogies.
Right.
Well,
did you do you guys have wedgies out there? Because I was under the impression that's like a Western.
That's like a Western PA thing. I do love a wedgie. Yeah. I do love a wedgie too. Really good steak wedge.
Woo. Yeah, ham and cheese. Yeah.
But a wedgie.
Whatever. A good wedgie.
Southern California is known. I would say at this point the biggest thing for. What is the biggest thing for Southern? Because honestly, Southern California pizza is like LA pizza scene is actually really good now. It's very, very good.
It's something in New York though to do with the water, because I guess bagels are really good there. Yeah, bagels
and pizza. I worked at a very good pizzeria that gets really good reviews and things. Out here, he also worked at a place in New York at Roberta's. I will say that Southern California's best thing is taking East Coast things, but then also making them their own. So like pizza and like seafood things like oysters. This is the best thing. Santa Barbara uni sea urchin is incredible. They literally catch it here.
Disgusting.
Oh,
I'm not
good.
a seafood.
I mean,
guy.
You're not a seafood guy, but if you are, if you like briny seafood,
just that word sounds gross. Briny.
Well, yeah, I mean, briny like pickles like that. So if you like pickles, briny.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
it. That's what you're looking for.
What about
And I will say
like
that,
tacos? Or like a nice
that was gonna be
burrito?
that was my thing where I was like,
Yeah.
tacos are really big. Tacos are really big, but the problem that I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought that up. The problem I was gonna say is that there's some really good ones, and then there are just some dog baby tacos. And you're
Yeah.
like, I'd
Okay.
rather just have tacos from a place where like no one's ever even seen a Mexican person. Because they like it's Lily's Tacos in Santa Barbara is my favorite taco place I've ever been to. And they
Mhm.
do everything. You know, it gets gnarly. Eyeballs, stomach, all that stuff. I've had them all. It's delicious. Uh it's delicious. They grind the eyeballs. You don't even really know you're eating
What the
eyeballs.
wait, what?
Eyeballs from a cow.
Okay, I'm good with this conversation. Is Chicago pizza?
Yes.
Is it?
It just beats you with a fork and a knife. Yeah. That's
It's
all of
like
it.
a
It's
casserole.
really good. Have you
I'm
been
not
to
saying it's
Chicago?
not good. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying I don't
Oh,
know
okay, okay. I
if it's
will. This is the
really
thing is, I don't
pizza.
argue with it being casserole, but there's so many different varieties of pizza. I'm not one of these.
Sure.
I love pizza. I'm not a pizza purist though, because like that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I just
Mr.
like pizza.
Baked Potato.
Well, a potato on pizza is like a thing that people do, but it also is
It's a
delicious.
thing you do. I
It's a
don't think
thing
it's a
that
thing
a
that I
lot
would
of
do.
pizza. It's Do you like potatoes?
No, we've had this.
Oh,
I don't eat
that's right. That's
potatoes.
right. It's
Yeah.
right. It's where you don't like potatoes, but you like French fries. The same thing.
It, I don't like baked potatoes and I don't like mashed potatoes and I don't like scalloped potatoes. I'll
Scalloped
eat
potatoes, I think I
like
honestly
griddle
think you're on the
potatoes
right on that.
or like made in like a hot plate sort of deal, like a nice red potato with a little bit of Parmesan
Okay.
cheese, maybe some ranch powder, fried up.
Because of the starchiness.
I don't know. I don't like mashed potatoes because it just looks like disappointing vanilla ice cream to me. It's
Okay.
just it has like the same shape, and then it
I would like
just
to make you my mashed potatoes. That's
and
what it should
I
be
would
like.
like to not eat them
Just have
because
a
I don't eat
spoonful.
mashed potatoes. The
I would
textures,
like to make
I don't like the
no,
texture.
I make a better textured mashed potato. But I
Then it's
digress.
not. Yeah, let's just move on. Let's agree to
Yeah.
disagree on
Sure.
mashed
That's
potatoes.
always fine.
TV shows is what we typically talk
Oh,
about
say were
here.
you just like we're like TV shows? Sure. Yeah. I like TV shows. Maybe not this week, but most of the time I like TV shows.
You didn't like them this week? I liked two of. I liked two for
Well,
three.
I will say
Two out of three
that
I liked.
I agree. Okay, 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3.
It'll be interesting
But
to see if we have the same two.
right.
At least one of them's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. Let's kick things off for the listeners and the viewers with episode 4 of House of the Dragon, brought to you exclusively by Naughty America. Because this was borderline just porn.
This was you had to click a couple
Everybody
times.
was
And I got a lot
everybody
of
was fucking.
pop-ups during the middle of this episode. It was weird. A lot of pop-ups during the middle of this episode.
Prince Daemon returns from his conquests with a haircut and a crown of
Still isn't attractive, but
thorns. He looked like a ghost.
I will say a lot of girls like him in
That's
general.
fine.
I do not find him attractive in this sequence of things. But
It's just the color of the hair. But he was in a couple of the shots. He was so white, like his hair, his skin tone, his clothing. He looked ghostly, and I don't know if that was on purpose.
His raping of young girls.
I mean, it seemed consensual.
It did.
So he's back and he honors his brother, such as it is. And then he and Rhaenyra have a conversation about how he thinks that she should be free of everything. And so then he takes her on a jaunt around the city that winds up in a pleasure house where they were seen coupling, as it were. And then he backed off, and then she went home back to the castle and got things going with Sir Christian, whatever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while that was happening, the king was getting his freak on with Alicent.
Yeah.
And then Lord Hightower's spies informed him, and he informed the king. And then she made the agreement that she would marry the sea snake's son for political purposes. Daemon was exiled yet again, and the hand lost his job. So it wasn't a super action-packed or eventful episode, but there was a lot of sex.
And so
and not as much candy.
I'm not sure that I will actually say I think we may agree. I did not like this episode. This did nothing. Oh. Okay, so it did nothing for me plot wise. It felt just kind of like I am not approved. It was just dirty. It just did nothing. It was like I want to take a shower after this episode, and not a cold shower, but like I need to cleanse myself because it felt filthy and gross.
Yes, and it did feel that way. Yeah,
and it's like she's 12.
Well, no, she's 18 now,
or she's 18 now. That's right.
She's 4 weeks ago. She was 14.
Yeah,
but
that's right. So she's
the way the show
young.
Progresses in time.
The way the show is like I forgot the time. Either way, it was very gross to me, all this, and also there wasn't killing of things enough. Like there should have been
any.
Yeah, right. And just killing of my want to continue the show for a little bit, because I was like, this is too much of that. And it's like, even Game of Thrones, when they have an episode like this, at least there would be one scene where someone's head gets cut off, and you're sick. And this was just too much. Like you said,
it was excessive.
I got a little bit of a Pornhub account, and I did not pay for it, and I did not want it, and I was just kind of checked out. I'm like, okay, this is now the episode. They're just like, let's just make it gross with this young girl and her uncle.
Yeah,
and it just didn't work. Honestly, I don't think the story progressed.
I don't think
there was any progression. I feel it was like, it's just we're make it gross because we need to make it gross, and George R. R. Martin's sitting in the corner beating off to it, and they're just like, okay, because that's just what I think he does and to these shows. I'm sorry to go that direction, but that's what I literally thought about this. Is this is something George R. R. Martin loves, but I hate it and did nothing for me. It was nothing for me of a show. I could have not had this. If I missed this and we went to the next episode, I don't think I missed anything in progression.
Only time will tell in that regard, but this did feel the sex was excessive. I understand this is an HBO show, and part of the hallmark of HBO shows is, sex, extreme amounts of sex, right? But this felt over the top. I didn't dislike this episode per se. It wasn't the strongest episode of the show by far. It was probably the weakest.
All right.
But it felt like, to me, it was more of the same political intrigue versus out and out violence. I mean, there's a lot of these moves are being made for political reasons. Even Daemon deflowering her per se. I mean, we don't necessarily know if there was
right.
But we do know that eventually there was with Sir Kristen.
I know Jeffrey Epstein really is sad to miss this episode. I know he was
maybe a bit much. But even that was a political move because
Yeah,
now
right,
it presents her as being damaged goods, right? So
right, right, right.
even that is a political move. And I do think that moving forward, and it was interesting to see the Hand kind of lose his position, because I actually even went into this episode thinking, wow, he's like he's quite a strong character, and it feels like that King Hand relationship is going to last over time,
Yeah.
whereas the Hand in Game of Thrones, there was a new one every half season basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit interesting, but this was a slow episode. It felt very much like what I would maybe call like a connecting episode, where it connects what happened before to what comes next. Whereas I don't think necessarily the events of this particular episode will be that memorable or important. It's just kind of moving from one place to another. And we kind of see that in some of the previews where Lord Corlys is back with, his son to be betrothed, and there seems to be quite a bit of violence in the next episode. So that will be
Right.
something to
I think the next episode will be good.
yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily think that this episode was bad. It was just weaker than the other episodes to this
Yeah.
point. And that's
Yeah.
going to not every episode is going to be a master, 10 out of 10. But
Right.
I was looking through at some of the things that people asked regarding House of the Dragon, and one of them, and we'll actually talk about this too with the Ring of Power or Rings of Power. Do you think it's necessary to have seen Game of Thrones to appreciate this show?
No, I
No,
don't.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would
no.
agree. There's bits and pieces, and there's maybe like nods, forward or backwards, but
Yeah.
it does take place within the same world 200 years earlier. I don't think that you need to have that information
I don't think so.
immediately
There's
on
something.
deck to appreciate this.
No, I don't think so. I think for me, it's just like if you never watched Game, it'd be weird. Although the thing I will say, it'd be weird if you watched this show without ever watching Game of Thrones. It's just like if this is your introduction to that. That's kind of a
That world, yeah.
odd move, but like, yeah, it's just a different move. But if you are, cool. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, like, as this goes on, maybe a little bit, if there's more connecting pieces, but as of right now, I don't think that you need to have
Nah, I don't
really
think so.
seen that series to fully appreciate this one. So,
Agree.
but yeah, looking forward to the next episode here in just a few days.
For me, I think they just did this to get this kind of episode out of the way, because the preview for the next episode looks awesome and I'm like stoked.
Yeah.
This was just too much. It was too much of like nothing for me happening, and I think that the political stuff I get, but once again, it was just like someone's head needs to be cut off, and it never happened. So that's what I want from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I felt like it was over the top. It was excessive. It was unnecessary. How much, but they were painting the picture such as it is. She has the freedom to choose, and Alicent, for example, who's now the queen, as she's being used basically by the king. I mean, she's a prisoner. And I think that was really what they were trying to paint that picture in this episode, is that the freedom to choose who your partner is a big deal in this world,
right,
for the women, because they have essentially no other power. And so she's been given, Rhaenyra's been given this power to choose, but then ultimately still will, quote, do her duty for the crown by marrying the House Valerian son. I think that's
Valerian son.
That's a proper match.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out though. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will.
We will indeed. We will keep the fantasy train rolling, or the I don't fantasy
Hey,
train
Mr.
probably not.
Fantasy.
Fantasy train's probably not a good reference after that episode of House of
Yeah,
House of
Pleasure
the
Pleasure Town. Pleasure
Pleasure House.
Pleasure House.
They were
It felt like a
coupling.
Pleasure Town though. It was like very weird, but
It was something. Ring of Powers.
the
Plural?
rings of
Yeah.
power. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. This sort of contained three storylines.
Yeah.
Galadriel and Halbrand were rescued at sea and brought back to a town in which elves are no longer revered as they once were. And we learned that Halbrand is the long lost king of the Southlands. Meanwhile, in the Southlands, Rondir the elf and his merry men are imprisoned in an orc work camp, I suppose you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they try to make their daring escape unsuccessfully. Meanwhile, the Brandyfoot clan of Hobbit, Half Feet, whatever they're referred to as in the show, were banished to the back of the caravan due to the stranger being kept around and
Yeah.
whatever capacity. And the nerdist still believes to be Gandalf, but
they'll believe whatever they want. They can do whatever
that's
they want.
that's
It's
fine.
great.
What did you think about episode 3 of the Rings of Power? Rings
Okay,
of
so
Power.
we both agreed that 2 of the 3 episodes were stuff we like. I think like might have been a strong word. I would say this is a show that I was okay with. I have said that I did not like Game of Thrones. Or sorry,
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. I did not like that
Yeah.
episode. I thought this episode was okay. It was very boring I think I texted you and Di about like this episode is very boring. But then Halbrand broke a couple things, like people's arms and necks, and I like that. I did like that because I do like a little violence in my life. I'm not a violent person. I am, but when it comes to TV shows of this kind of thing, I did like that. I don't even know if I should say I like this. I know it's like going back on it because now I'm like thinking about it. This show has like potential to be, I think, cool and not good. I think cool and good are different. I think that's a big thing. And I think this show has a good potential to be cool. I don't know if it has potential to be good. It can look very cool. It can have cool characters in it. Elves are cool, even if they're not considered cool in the premise of like what people think of them. But I think a problem with this show, even though I think overall like this episode was fine, like at least a story progressed. That's the problem that I had with
House of the Dragon.
Why do I keep calling it?
Well, it's Game of Thrones.
House of the Dragons because I have the thing.
Yeah,
is that I don't think the story progressed at all in there. I do think the story progressed here. We do get a little bit more of that. I just am also now kind of at a point where like I don't care, even though I like know the story's progressing and I think the story's okay. I do need a little bit more, and I will 100% say I don't care about the half foot people. Like every time they come on the screen, I'm just like, this is boring. And I'll also be honest, I don't care about the hobbits in Lord of the Rings. I don't care. I think The Hobbit is like an okay book that I read because like everyone in the world tells you to read it. It's fine. And then those movies are terrible. There's too much of them. And then when you watch the Lord of the Rings movies, like the Hobbits, I don't care about. And I know that they're an important part, but they're only written as an important part in those movies because they're so stupid and boring that like he had to make them an important part because otherwise none of us would care. Like if the ring wasn't so important to the hobbits, it's like elves and everything else in those movies are awesome. And then the hobbits are just like, oh, well, the ring's the most important thing to us. And so I'm an anti-Hobbit person. I'm sorry. I'm just anti-Hobbit. And you can write that in my profile. You can just be like, I'm anti-Hobbit. They're boring. I'm not even sure. Like, I I feel like Tolkien had like a little friend person in his life, and he just wanted to represent that person in these. And that guy is probably awesome. Probably just crushing it in life. But I do not care. I don't like their storylines. I think it's like makes them almost like it takes advantage of the fact that they're like little people in a way that like it does in a weird way, and it just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't like that. But I do like the story of Halbrand. Like I think Halbrand has this storyline that actually is going to mean a lot. And so that's why I say this is one of the two episodes I like because I think his character is very, very interesting. And I think there's a lot behind that. I also like the elves scene of like we're trying to get out and then we can't and all that crap's happening. I thought that scene was really good. So there were 3 or 4 scenes that are really good, but the the Hobbit scenes I did not like, and it just doesn't work for me at all. And it so this show is struggling for me, but it was better than a show where literally it's just like teenage girls having sex with their uncles. And at least there wasn't that. So if that's, I guess that's what I'm going. It's like at least it wasn't that. It wasn't 18-year-old girls having sex with their uncles. So what a low bar I have right now.
Well then, um, I'm gonna use this is how I feel about this show, and I'm gonna use an analogy from video games. Sometimes a developer pays all of the attention to things that are important, like the engine or the graphical fidelity or one maybe specific mechanic or whatever. And in the end, they forget to like make an actual game. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on here. The world is totally beautiful. Every shot, there's color. There are these beautiful and iconic cities. I don't know if iconic's the right word, but these massive sculptures and things like that. And it's like they poured all of this most expensive TV show ever, all of this money into making a this beautiful, absolutely stunning world. Thank you for that face. It's going to be on the thumbnail. And they forgot to give us a compelling story.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I don't know how deeply this ties into, the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, the different appendices, the Silmarillion, all those old, lesser known Tolkien works. I don't know. But like you said, Halbrand, his character seems like he's going to be really important. So you're telling me he's from a land, he's the king of that land, he's rejecting being the king of that land, but eventually he's going to understand that he needs to have the responsibility to be the king of that land. Doesn't that sound an awful familiar, like someone we've already experienced in some of these works?
Yeah.
Sure. And the son of the naval captain is Isildur, who is the one who defeats Sauron with the sword, cuts the ring in the movies and the books, etc. So that's an important character that they're kind of, ushering in. But this is where, like, I guess what I struggle with is that there are pretty low stakes in this show, because for the same reason that the stakes in Obi-Wan weren't that high, because we know what happens to all those characters. We know what happens to Galadriel. We know what happens to Aragorn, Elrond rather. We know what happens to Isildur. We know if the stranger is Gandalf or one of these other wizards, maybe it's Saruman, I don't know. We know what happens to them. So at the end of the day, whereas with a Game of Thrones show, whether it be the original Game of Thrones or House of Dragons, where there is that sense of no one has plot armor, many of the characters in this show do. There's just not that level of risk. We know nothing bad's going to happen to Galadriel. We know nothing bad's going to happen to Elrond. And so, like you said, the show was incredibly boring throughout the episode. And so I think that for where this is going, for it to be on the same level as Game of House of Dragons, see, I did too, or Wheel of Time, because right now Wheel of Time to me is better than this. So to be on the same level as those shows, you're going to have to show me something more than just a pretty world. And that's kind of where, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, I don't care. I'm not saying it's bad. Yeah. I'm not saying it's bad. Well, I'm just saying that the world is so beautiful, but where are the characters that make me care? And like, I know, like you said, you're anti-Hobbit. I liked Frodo and Sam's relationship. I didn't really care about Merry and Pippin, but Frodo and Sam's relationship, I thought was really, really important in the books and the movies and the way it was conveyed. But like, you care about them. You care about Sam because Sam would give anything for Frodo, and Frodo gets on him constantly.
Yeah.
And you care about like the relationship between Legolas and Gimli in the trilogy. You care about what Aragorn's past is and how that relates to the future and how they're going to defeat the enemy and all this. And I just, maybe it's because it's early, but I just don't give a shit about any of these characters. And so you're going to have to give me a reason to care for this to kind of pick up and be more than just a pretty landscape.
And I'll just have two things to close on my thing. Is I understand that relationship to like the relationship with the Hobbit characters.
Sam and Frodo.
I will, Sam and Frodo. I was like, in general, though, like the relationship there for all the Hobbit characters is very important to this. My only real problem is I always felt that seemed forced in the stories. I did see, because there's so many cooler characters, and it's like, let's take the characters that aren't as cool. Like, because Legolas could have been, Legolas is my favorite character and I'm not the only one who thinks that. I'm just saying. And so you're taking characters that aren't necessarily as cool and making them. The other thing I'll just say is that the way that this series ends is kind of lame. Well, long but lame. Like, they literally, you and I have talked about this. It's lame. They cheat and they win, and it's not really like a well-conceived device to win. Like, that's
you're referring to the Army of the Dead.
I'm referring to the Army of the Dead, which you and I have discussed as cheating on the highest level. It
did seem like he painted himself into a bit of a corner.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where like it's like taking a basketball team and somehow you're able to take 93 Michael Jordan and just transport him to your team because you're down 10 at the half. And then it's like, here's 93 Michael Jordan, the peak of Michael Jordan powers. And now you win the game. And it's like, well, we won the championships. It's like, well, you didn't. 93 Michael Jordan came back and won that game for you. And so there is that problem with Lord of the Rings in entirety. And I can kind of see that happening here where you said, like, we already have that storyline, even though I think Haldren's cool, but there's a reason why I think Holdren's cool, because it's imprinted in my
Because
brain.
Aragorn's cool.
Because Aragorn's cool.
Right.
And it's imprinted in my brain. And so that's the problem that I see. We'll see what happens though.
Here's what I'll say with
we'll
that is also, I'm sure that there are marked differences between the two, and that when we post this, some Lord of the Ring fan is going to comment on the video and say, well, this is a have a seat.
Lord of the Rings fan, if you have 100,000 viewers on YouTube, comment and then come on our show.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what we want. Yeah.
But also
we'll talk about it.
Have a seat. Okay. Just take a seat.
Take a seat.
But it was, we talk a lot about feeling like nothing happens in shows and it's not progressing. And I felt with the show like there was very little. There was like stingers here and there. She figures out that it's not a sigil, it's a map. Okay, well, and then you kind of figure out that that's where this labor camp is in the Southlands. And we all kind of know, based on what's being said with these texts, that we're looking at Mordor, the beginnings of Mordor, whatever.
Right, yeah.
It's like this show's an hour long and we only get 3 minutes of things that matter. And I do agree with you that I'm very bored by the Brandyfoot clan and their migratory caravan. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, there's something
like get better there. At this point. The stranger better be Gandalf. What's that? Like it better be Gandalf or one of these other wizards, because if it's just like, if he just like learns to talk and is like, hey, I'm Jeff.
Hey,
then that's Jeff, gonna be your big letdown.
You know what? I'm really good at repairing Fords from the 60s. Yeah. Like, what? Oh, you're from the future?
Yeah. I'm Jeff.
That'd be sick though. It'd be cool. He's like, yeah, well, that's this Thunderbird I gotta take care of. That's what I've been saying the entire time.
I want her to go, what's her name? Nori?
Nori, yeah.
Nori. And he goes, oh, Jeff. Jeffrey.
If
you can call me Jeff.
I swear to God, Brenton, if that happens, I'm gonna run through the window. I'm just gonna and I'll take a video. I'm like, JD, I'm gonna run through the window. I'm gonna do it. I'll come on the show. It's blood.
It's
God damn, I think it's gonna happen now. I'm gonna have to run through a window.
I'm confident his name's not Jeff. But it's just, I don't know. Like that whole storyline is just shaping up to be a giant letdown, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't figure it out and he's like, hey, actually, I would even take him being Radagast the Brown or whatever, the dude from The Hobbit with like the bird shit in his head. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I just needed to be something. So before we move on to She-Hulk, same question. Do you feel as though that we asked this with House of the Dragon, so if you're video only, you can hop over to the House of the Dragon to see what we thought about whether you needed to have watched Game of Thrones prior to watching House of the Dragon to fully enjoy House of the Dragon. So same question. I'm not going to say The Hobbit, but do you think that you need to have watched Lord of the Rings to appreciate this show at its... Here, I think the answer is yes.
I think it's 100% yes.
Because there's people and places and things that are referred to. Like if you're just watching this and you're like, oh, you've never seen Lord of the Rings, and it's, oh, the Southlands seems like that's going to be important. But if you know Lord of the Rings and you're like, oh shit, that's going to be Mordor. Like it has a greater
the Southlands. You're like, what was that Alabama?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like, it's Alabama. Right. Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Good football. Yeah.
Maybe.
Great crawfish.
Right. But I do think that you have to have, I mean, some of the characters are, the elves, Elrond and Galadriel, we've discussed at length. There are important characters in those movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Very important characters.
Hugo Weaving.
It'd be so weird. I honestly think of all things, if you watch this show without ever watching those movies or reading those books, and you're just like jumping into this, that's gotta be a fucking trip. Because you're like, I don't know where anything is going. What is this? What
Center for Ants?
A center for ants? They have to be at least 3 times as good. It's so good. But yeah, I don't know. If they do like maybe that's the next step for Amazon. It's just a Zoolander prequel.
That'd be dope.
It'd be sick, actually.
I would like that, actually. But anyway,
we'll read.
Yeah, I think that this is. I think you have to have seen that to really fully appreciate this.
This is the thing. I'll just to backtrack on Game of Thrones. God damn.
House of the
whatever.
Dragon.
It's House of the Dragon. It's whatever. Yeah. If there was one head cut off in that entire episode, I'd be like, this is fine. And then rings the tower. I've been like, I just need a head cut off. All I needed is someone to be like, you slept with my sister's cousin, Ka-chung. And I'd be like, sick. Head on the ground. Let's do it. That's where I'm at. Because I look at Game of Thrones in general, not the show in general, but I look at Game of Thrones as the Italian mafia. And that's where I look at it. I know it's related to like the roses and all that shit, but I look at it as the mafia. Where it's like you do one thing wrong,
War of the Roses, yeah.
Something's getting cut off, and it's usually your head. Or
not in the yeah. All right. Yeah, I hope that this kind of picks up. I'm looking forward to that. So
me too.
But we'll move on.
We will move on.
She-Hulk, attorney at law. This week, Jen has to get a suit, which is, I guess, the B storyline is her getting a suit with those two cronies, her paralegal, and then who is that guy? I know I've seen him in something else.
He's been a lot. He's just the that guy. He's just the that guy. I think
yeah. I'm looking it up, but she has a legal battle with Titania, who is using the name She-Hulk, and they have to prove that Jen began to use the name prior to, and it's like a whole thing. It's very courtroomy, and there's not a whole lot of action in this particular episode. Yeah. So what's your take on She-Hulk this week?
So like we discussed last week, I like when it's just the courtroom drama, like because this is originally what we thought it was going to be.
Yes, let me jump in. He is he's one of the COs, correctional officers, Stevanovic on Orange is the New Black. That's what I know him from.
Okay.
Yep.
I've never seen Orange is the New Black, but he's in a lot of other things too. Okay.
You never seen Orange is the New Black?
I've not seen it. No.
That surprises me. It seems like it's probably something in your wheelhouse.
There's so many things. There's so many things out there. I really like this. I like the courtroom drama. I like how it was brought back to her, like, well, I'm She-Hulk just on my, my app. And that's the thing. And like the guy that her like main dude was like, you know what? I'm just digging the She-Hulk. I don't really care about Jen. Right. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was like, I hate this term and I don't really want to use it, but I'm going to fucking say it, even though I say it maybe 3 times a year. It was woke. Ugh. And like, and I hate it. Oh, God, I just threw up in the mouth. And I hate saying it. Like, I don't know if I've ever actually said it. But it was like using that term in the correct way of like, what we see on the internet is kind of what guides us. And I thought this show was just very prevalent and like it made a bunch of sense, very prescient of the moment, which is what we thought She-Hulk was going to be. We thought it was going to touch on what is happening in the real world.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of Avengers movies, stuff we really like, is on the. It just doesn't matter. It could be 20 years ago, it'd be 20 years in the future. Honestly, it doesn't matter. But this show is very much now, is very much of the present, and I think this show's kind of hidden in its wheelhouse. I really liked this episode. I thought it was smart. I thought it was cool how she like changed in the mid episode because the guy likes She-Hulk more. I thought that was cool. It's like the body, like being comfortable with your body thing too, which is like, I have my pros and cons with that, but I will say that it was just like, now it feels like Jen's being more comfortable with like being She-Hulk and understanding that that can be a thing, and like she can still be attractive. And still be, because I think that's the thing. Like, that's the thing. The movies are just like everybody's hot because they're superheroes. But like she has a little bit of like self-deprecation about herself, and then she becomes She-Hulk, and it's even more because she's big and she's green. But it's like, but then this guy who's attractive really likes her for being She-Hulk, and it's like this is going into the psychological thing. He likes her for what she actually is.
But he doesn't, because he likes her for
no, because she's actually She-Hulk now. But she is She-Hulk now. That's what she is. And because they made the joke about, oh yeah, you're a lawyer, and that's a joke, but she's not really a lawyer anymore. She is She-Hulk. Like, because yes, she can defend court cases, but at the end of the day, she can also just kick every ass in the room and take care of business that way. So I thought that was really cool. I do think that the Titania thing was actually pretty funny too. It feels like a real court case. These shows, I always hoped were going to be like Judge Judy cases, and now they are. And I think that is actually awesome. I think that is awesome. Yes, this show is not a 10 out of 10, but it's what we wanted. We wanted half-hour courtroom cases, and it's not even that. These episodes are like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
They fly by, and I think personally, for me, I think these shows are doing what they're supposed to do. If this evolves into other things, they're like, oh, she's an Avenger. Oh, eventually she'll be an Avenger. I don't even care about that. It's just like, I like her as regular Jen. I think that when she becomes She-Hulk, it's like she's actually more comfortable in that character as a, whatever it is. I think this show is like really growing on me. I honestly do. I think it really is.
Like fungus.
Like, it's just, I've been affected by, gamma rays, and I am too. Big sick.
Better than
I wouldn't want to do that.
Better than being infected by the cordyceps virus.
Yeah, but honestly, you want to be bitten by a radioactive spider.
I mean, if you had to choose.
Yeah.
If
or you're just Captain America. Actually, that's probably
doesn't do it for me.
Doesn't do it for you? Being Captain America.
I'm not a big Captain America guy.
Like being like super strong and like hot.
I'd rather be Batman. Batman's
but like
the one.
Captain America could kick. In all essence, Captain America could kick Batman's ass.
No, false.
I'm talking hand to hand.
No, absolutely wrong.
Hand to hand combat. Yes.
Excuse me. What was the word that just
combat?
Combat. Hand to hand combat.
I felt like I swam out of the alley.
Batman has enough time to prepare. He can beat anyone. Period.
I won't disagree with you on that. I'm talking like discussion. A straight street fight. Straight street.
Yeah, I like Batman's odds
against Captain America.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's pretty tough. He's like apex human with a cool frisbee.
But Batman is still human.
Okay, let's just, this isn't what this is about.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. We could,
you want to talk about that though. What'd you think, Brenton, of She-Hulk?
This episode was a slight step back for me.
Okay.
I still liked it, but I didn't think that this was kind of like I said with House of the Dragon, kind of a connecting episode. It was kind of a connector episode, because I do think that, and she alludes to it at the end of the court hearing, that Titania, it's not over between the two of them. And I think that there is going to, that is probably what the final conflict of the show is. Not necessarily
Final boss.
Yeah, not necessarily unfolding in a courtroom though. I didn't really like. So last week we both stated that we liked the primary storyline, which was the Donnie Blaze magic thing. Right?
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, with Madison, who's like
Yeah.
an internet sensation now with 2 N's and 1 Y, but not where you would think. We like that, and then with the dating app as being kind of the secondary story. And so the pattern here seems to be that when the primary story is her in the courtroom and the secondary story is her doing something else that fits in snug, the episodes are pretty good. But for me, when the primary story is her doing courtroom stuff and then these side characters going on like a little bit of a side quest, it's not quite as fun. And I didn't really like the clothing design character. He was a little bit too over the top for me.
That was too much.
And it really felt like that whole storyline was just for the stinger at the end where you see the Daredevil helmet or mask, whatever. So I just felt like this was just a setup episode. Like it didn't necessarily it didn't really move forward anything. It did kind of maybe show that she's getting more comfortable being She-Hulk, and it maybe showed that kind of dichotomy, especially with Titania being this sort of like internet influencer. Like you said, it's touching on things that are relevant right now. But I didn't dislike it. I still liked the episode, but I did not like it as much as last week's episode. And I thought there was some rough CGI in this episode too.
There was rough. I will say I watched this on my phone.
Yeah.
So it's a lot tougher to see CGI on your phone, even though I have a great phone. It's just still tougher.
Yeah.
So
that's what I mean. There was like when after she had won the hearing and she walked out of the courtroom, it just looked a little janky.
No, yeah.
Kind of picked up on that. But yeah. So She-Hulk and media recommendations.
Okay. My media recommendations are Dead, the band, which I'm not sure how many people have heard of them. I caught on to it because I really like How Long Gone, the podcast, for those that listen to podcasts other than ours. How Long Gone had Dead on, and they're really good. The thing I will say is that song is very catchy. It's insanely catchy to me. And so Dead, DEHD, Mad Love, that is something I really, really enjoyed. I will go to writing sternly written emails, but getting a response. So I will say that I wrote a sternly written email to parents because I had written 6 previous emails.
Media recommendation?
This is a media recommendation, but this is also a life recommendation.
Okay.
I wrote a sternly written email.
That's what she
I wrote a sternly written email to parents, and I was told that isn't necessarily what I should do. And my response was, I understand that maybe that isn't what I should do, but I actually got response from it. So I thought that is a good thing to tell people. Sometimes you need to be a little bit of an asshole to get things done. I did it
every day.
I'm sorry that I did it to some degree, but I'm not. Junior British Bake Off from 2021 is a great show. My guy lost. I won't spoil anything. My guy lost. He's going to be awesome, though. Toscana's a movie on Netflix. Big food movie for a foodie person. You'll like that. NFL's back. That first Sunday. Those 1 o'clock games. 10 a.m. if you're in – sorry, Brenton. 10 a.m. if you're in the Pacific Coast area where I'm at. But those 1 o'clock games were amazing. College football, I keep going. And I will just say, Brenton, you and I have talked about the Arctic Monkeys before. But I am really digging just watching live Arctic Monkeys. Amazing. It's now my number one band that I have not seen to see in concert now. So Arctic Monkeys.
There you go. They're not real monkeys from the Arctic.
No.
That's not a thing.
But they are from Britain.
Yeah. So bad teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, though.
But then pockets.
Hey, pockets.
What's
No
the matter?
books.
Don't think I've got the minerals.
I don't know how to read once I start school again. I just can't read a book. I tried picking up a book the other day. And I was like, why are these words formed together coherently? Because
Yeah, you're
things
just
I
like you're
read,
just out there reading like Hatchet, right?
I wish. I wish I would read something that good. I'm reading like kids' essays, and I'm like,
Oh.
my God. So
For me, I finished The Last of Us Part 1 remake. Well, I didn't finish it. I beat the game. I'm
sure.
doing like collectible
Congratulations.
cleanups, and I have to play the DLC Left Behind to like actually finish the game. But I beat the game in 13, according to my play clock, 13 hours and 55 minutes. That's not like any kind of speed run. It's actually, I think, kind of slow because I'm pretty meticulous with how I play, and I was shocked with how many collectibles I actually missed, considering like the style that I play through. But that was pretty much it. I've been getting my butt kicked by work this week, so it was just The Last of Us, and then
God damn, me too, Brenton. 12 hours a day, my guy. Fuck the email system. You know what? I wish the internet was never invented except for our podcast.
the
I
BXG
hate it.
podcast publishes every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. Pacific, 4 a.m. Hawaiian.
Aloha.
On podcast services around the globe. You can catch us all on Spotify, Amazon, Google. Check out our YouTube page for exclusive videos. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BHG Podcasts, and then our private handles. Yeah, check us out. Thanks for
Our
listening.
private handles, indeed.
Indeed.